Near the middle-ish of the United States of America lies the historic and prominent city of St. Louis, Missouri. Chances are good you have heard of it, and chances are equally as good you have heard some troubling things about it. Therefore, those who have never been here and only have headline knowledge probably imagine it only looks like this. Maybe they know the Cardinals baseball or the Blues hockey teams play here, and possibly remember we had an NFL team a couple times. Other than that, it's just your typical dying, crime-ridden Midwest Rust Belt city with the classic urban flight and blight story, right? Sadly, this is what the worldwide perception has become in the most recent fourth of its history, and that's not a surprising conclusion if we're going to be honest. This is an op-ed piece of my personal opinions and perceptions of St. Louis the city, based on my decades of being privy to it firsthand. My goal here is to make a small pleading case against some of those adjectives while I explain why St. Louis, Missouri is special. Now, you might expect for me at this point to run down the well-known list of St. Louis highlights like our professional sports teams, first-rate museums and restaurants, world-renowned universities and hospitals, the free zoo and all the amenities of Forest Park, not to mention that giant croquet wicket down by the river. But there's no time to mention any of that, because this argument is about saving what remains of our historical architecture. St. Louis is anything but typical. Now, of course, every city and town is technically unique and all special in their own way with their important relative histories. But I have a bias, so don't be surprised or offended when I declare that St. Louis is just a little more special than others. And I mean actually dictionary definition special. That's not meant to be a politely veiled slight. When included among all the not named here U.S. bicentennial brick cities east of the Rockies, St. Louis shares many of the finest attributes among any of them, as well as first-rate examples of the upsetting and unrelenting negative ones. But St. Louis also has a plethora of unique architectural elements tied to prominent American history that we all need to appreciate more and work harder at keeping, because they never could and never will ever be replicated or replaced in all of time and space. Was that dramatic enough? On the next adjective, St. Louis is not dying. It may be eroded, stained, cracked, even festering, but it determinedly soldiers on with unrelenting perseverance and optimism that if it can just hang on a while longer, the glories will return, unimpeded by a bad reputation. The evidence is overwhelming that most of us here care and are succeeding towards that goal. In fact, great chunks of the area have been massively improved in just recent years after decades of downward spiral. The most recent boon even made decent encroaching headway into some of our most written-off areas, and hopefully this doesn't slide backwards as the next inevitable downturn comes around. There is undoubtedly too much violent crime in the St. Louis metro area, as reflected by routinely scoring so high on those distorting but ever so popular worst cities lists. There is also too much nonviolent crime, self-defeating governmental policy, cronyism, corruption, and general apathy for standard. It's all been so routine for so long now, we've all become numb to it like background radiation. And while thousands heroically keep up the fight for justice, peace, and civility day in and day out, it seems this machine is being undermined to the point it has the effective enthusiasm of the time to make the donuts guy. In contrast, it's disheartening to see so many city leaders and other authorities repeatedly make the same mistakes and bad choices again and again, year after year, decade after decade. positive energies and morale of the mass population are countered drastically and easily by the immoral or incompetent actions of just a few. At times I'm amazed at how well the city actually functions, exemplifying the power good and order has against even the most appalling and deplorable human actions and behaviors. At this point in the script, I could write an unsolicited finger-wagging diatribe on what I think of things like the city-county division, what needs to get accomplished, and what steps and directions the city needs to take. I know I could because I finished most of it before I decided to scrap it. Busybodiness isn't really my thing. I really just wanted to express that I yearn for the restoration, integrity, and prosperity of this city, while at the same time, it feels like it's breaking my heart on a daily basis. It's not uncommon to hear that people around here are friendly and helpful, and I'd pit the class of our sports fans against anyone. Traits to be proud of for sure. This is also a city of great generosity and prestige, and has no business having some of the problems it does. The city of St. Louis and surrounding areas are absolutely blessed with historic architecture, but it is finite. We should take pride in the remarkable job done retaining so much of it, be ashamed we have let so much of it slip away, and fortify our resolve for the mission to a point just a little beyond sensible reason without getting too foolish. We should utilize our unique characteristics all we can toward an admirable marketing advantage. As the westernmost colonial city in the USA, with its salient pre-revolutionary French roots likened to its blood relative in history just down the river, New Orleans, St. Louis could be made into a real hospitality and tourist destination, as well as even more of a desirable place to live and work if we would just focus on running it as well as possible. Every acre would be in prosperous demand if we could simply manage peace, justice, equality, and professionally run city services. I know it's easy to make as well as mock such a simple broad statement as that, but I think we forget just how critical these basic and obvious things are to achieving the most happiness and prosperity for the most people, and a firm grip on them would alleviate and sort out a whole host of other problems. St. Louis's problems can't be fixed with pet project money alone, especially if we keep playing deferred revenue roulette. Consistent and fair execution of proper policy and non-tyrannical law with a proficient and accountable government is what can make this city stand out as a model example among its peers, and long-term stable investment will follow. The course of the ship remains in the hands of the living, and it is currently our chance to steer it not only for our betterment, but future generations as well. We could all probably find even the littlest ways to be better people and more considerate of our family, friends, neighbors, and strangers as we go about our daily lives. Let's all work towards making this place as inviting and respected as we can, because if you really think about it, we are merely temporary stewards passing through St. Louis's history. Might I suggest starting off with not murdering each other and working our way down from there as applicable, because it's long past time we grew up and started acting like equal civilized adults while continuing to pursue fair and reasonable treatment as equal civilized adults. So here's to freedom without mayhem, because racing to the lowest common denominator does nothing to improve quality of society. I enjoy making videos on whatever things and sites that amuse, intrigue, and inspire me, like I'm capturing memories, feelings, and nostalgic sentiments of my trek through the human experience. Publishing and sharing them is my offer and attempt to connect with human experiences of others as I document mere molecules of our time and space. as a significant part of my creative drive involves an urge to champion and support this undersung, bad-mouthed place I call home, I aspire to contribute to St. Louis documentation towards an overall positive effect with my self-perceived, undiluted filmings. In fact, this low-effort message itself was created largely to offer search result ballast to both the salacious shame stories and sanitized, sugary salmonship one typically comes across. Okay, I made up the word salmonship for silly alliterative purposes, obviously, but hopefully the point is made that I simply wanted to state my obscure little, slightly distanced, slightly broad, hopefully centered opinions. Thank you for watching.